A few months ago, we mentioned on Post Time how a couple of University of Delaware students were conducting surveys on gastric ulcers in standardbred racehorses. Some statistics show that up to 90% of racehorses could have ulcers, which can negatively affect their performance. So let's check in with the students now to see how their research went.
Nia Hopkins and I, over the summer, we did some summer research with the equine nutrition lab on campus, and we conducted a survey study in relation to gastric ulcers in standardbred racehorses. And gastric ulcers are a prevalent issue in racehorses. Part of it is due to the intensity of the exercise that the horses partake in regularly. And we created a survey so that we could conduct interviews, and the variables that we were looking at included things like the type of hay that was being fed, the access to hay, such as whether the horses had access all day long or their hay was limited, how they were fed on race day, whether they were fed their normal amount or they were fed less than their normal amount, and also whether or not they were provided a vitamin supplement as well.
We went to various different farms and administered that survey. We asked them questions about how they feed them, how often they feed their horses, and at the end of the summer we collected all of our data, and we got a lot of interesting data. We decided to go 2 different routes. I did turnout and exercise frequency, and my partner focused more on nutrition of the horse before the race. And I found out that turnout actually increases the incidence of gastric ulcers, but it's also not very strong correlations, something that I should go back and look further into.
Among the variables that we looked at, we actually didn't find any significant relationships. However, I am also conducting a senior thesis looking at the pre-race fasting variable specifically. There is literature to suggest that limiting the amount that a horse eats or fasting a horse entirely before a race can increase the pH in a horse's stomach, which means that their stomach is more acidic, and that can cause parts of the stomach that shouldn't be exposed to acid to then be exposed to that stomach acid and possibly increase the risk of developing gastric ulcers.
It not only affects the horse negatively, but it affects the owners and the trainers that are working with these horses. They lose a lot of financial aspects when a horse doesn't perform as well. Obviously, the overall health of the horse is diminished, something we definitely need to figure out. The next steps for us would be to expand our survey range and not focus only on Delaware race tracks, but maybe Maryland and New Jersey. But when it comes to our specific data points, for me, I would focus more on turnout and how that affects the horse. So that would be diving deeper into the physiological effect on the horse as a result regarding to gastric ulcers.
I have learned a lot from my experience this past summer, and I wanted to extend a thank you to Dr. Amy Vitale for being a wonderful mentor and a wonderful research lab leader, and I also wanted to extend a thank you to Dr. Christopher Balt as well for offering a lot of guidance and support throughout this process.
Visiting the racetracks, it was very heartwarming to know how much these owners and trainers care for their horses and their health. It was very comforting to find that they were willing to let us come and visit them while they were busy, while they had so many things to do, and I just really appreciated their time when it came to us asking them so many questions about their horses.
And a special thank you to these students for doing this survey and their ongoing research on gastric ulcers in standardbreds. We love seeing the next generation interested in our business and the welfare of our beautiful horses.